I've been taught in business to look at the bottom line, not in the process, not in the rhetoric, but what you get at the end. And at the end, this is the third gathering of our distinguished forum in Washington. And I remember that at the first meeting, there was literally no one showing up besides the speakers and the organizers. On the second forum, it was already a full house, but in a small room. And this time it was a full house in a large audience. So that means that the message is getting across and that there is an interest. I was starting to think, why it's happening this way, because the idea of Russia to collapse, is not popular in this town.
Unfortunately.
No, we need to face the reality, if we want to achieve something. And the previous administration was saying a lot of wonderful things about supporting Ukraine and fighting the war and strengthening NATO and transatlantic solidarity and globalization efforts, like whatever. And it's not a new idea on my behalf. I've been asked many times, besides Putin, who is your enemy number one? Who is not the enemy, it's the wrong word. What is your problem number one? And I will say, my problem number one is the US administration, the previous one. Because being completely involved in what's going on in Ukraine, Mr. Sullivan every day started his day with a briefing on Ukraine, what's going on, and giving orders and making the decisions. And the previous administration had a clear pact with Putin. We are not supporting any regime changes in Russia, and you are not going into nuclear arms. And it was revealed at the last months of the previous administration in this Woodford's book, The War, which was telling about how it was negotiated with Mr. Burns, meeting with Kremlin guys and making this pact.
It was with Narishkin or with whom?
It was with Narishkin. It was in another meeting. So yeah, there was two major meetings when it was negotiated, and this agreement was followed, and that's why it was extremely hard to get across here in Washington D.C. We faced strong wind, and there was support from the US coming to different Russia opposition organizations. And was a lot of criticism from Ukraine why they're supporting these guys in particular. And one guy who actually, I wouldn't give his name without his permission, as a high level guy, he was actually yesterday among the speakers. And when I was asking him why they're not supporting us, he's saying, I said, whether it's because we're involved in the armed resistance. And the guy said, no, it's not because the armed resistance. It's because you are about resistance. Because you are serious. And the people in this town don't want to support those who are serious. They want to support people, doing media stuff, maybe human rights stuff, some advocacy in the West, but not something on the ground. And people who are in this audience, these are the people who are doing something on the ground. And that's why it was a problem. And but in the previous Congress, there was one guy who actually was helping us in the House. Guess who he was? It was someone named Mike Waltz. That was the only guy who was never shy of meeting and talking about regime change, and all the other stuff which is associated with armed resistance, And what, this administration looks very egocentrical, very cynical, very commercialized, very transactional, but it's not as hypocritical as the previous one was. And there is right now, we see absolutely no resistance. There is no taboo topics. You know, there are things they don't want to be involved themselves, yes. But at least they are not preventing us from doing things. And I see it in Ukraine in a lot of military operations, intelligence operations. You know, there is no more Jake Sullivan who would pick up the phone and say, please stop it. There is no more situation like with going into Kursk when it has to be completely hidden, you know, so that nobody would actually notice it, you know, so that the Ukrainian army can actually execute. There is right now enormous awakening in Europe, and that's because of the actions of the current administration. Maybe they didn't mean it to happen, but that's the bottom line. So the bottom line that the current situation is way healthier, that our horizons are wider, that more paths are available, and I hope that our fourth forum would be already in the main hall. White House is the fifth one.
with the draft resolution on captive nations.
And I want to wish everybody luck with
So
this.
for next year, we need a suit and the cards.
Yes.
Yep.